City Talks with REUBEN ABATI.
Today we'll be having two guests on the program as we discuss the power grid total collapse and amidst diesel price hike in Nigeria. And to guide us through this, it's a great pleasure to introduce the first guest, who is a frontline maritime journalist and publisher of Shipping World magazine, Eda Asubex. Eda Asubex is a member of the Ijaw People's Assembly and president of the Ijaw Media Forum. Apart from being a frontline maritime journalist and publisher, Eda Asubex has been vocal on many national issues, especially in the area of politics and the economy. If you want to be part of this conversation, you can call us on 0700 1051 1051 and also leave a comment on our WhatsApp number 090 991 64403 and on social media accounts at CT1051 on Zoom, Instagram, and Facebook. Eda Asubex, thank you very much for joining us. Just to ask you, this week alone, we've had the national grid collapsing about twice, and then this is not the first time this will happen. Last year, in May, in July, in August, and even much earlier in February, there was the grid also collapsing. Why do you think this is always happening, considering the amount of investment in the electricity sector by the government and other investors?
And for going to 8 years of this administration, we have not been able to tackle it. And the reasons are simple. We have not put square pegs or put round pegs in round holes. And you see, the world is a global village. You can't be doing one thing over and over again and expect different results. And so I don't know. There was a change recently by Mr. President, when he rejigged his cabinet to bring in a new minister to take charge of power. But I have not done enough background check on this minister. Does he have the capacity? Does he have the competence? Because this has always been our problem in this country. Put this one there where you can learn. We are not a learning country. 60 years of independence, how can we say we are still learning? So if you don't know how to do, go to countries that have done it well. Go to countries like South Africa. Please don't drop your ego. Say, how are you guys doing it that you can generate up to 58 megawatts with your population of about 59 million? So I've got there. Even neighboring Ghana, I know friends and brothers and relations who have gone to Ghana and said, look, there's an interrupted power supply in Ghana. So what is the problem? And then the other problem in this country is that when people misbehave, they don't get reprimanded. Nobody gets fired for failing. So it's like you have a minister for power, for example, for 8 years, you keep him learning and learning and learning until he leaves. So if we cannot get the issue of power right as a nation, then how can we grow? How can we develop?
Eda Bex, the Minister of Power, Muhammad Aliyu, was saying during the week, I think on Wednesday to be specific, that the collapse of the grid was due to a number of challenges, one of which is vandalization of pipelines, gas shortage, and also the fact that there was scheduled maintenance of the grid. Why should we have just one national grid? Why is it not possible to decentralize the grid?
See, Dr. REUBEN ABATI, if I am elected president of this country, my first 4 years I will use to make sure that Nigerians have uninterrupted power supply. Now, what happened? Why did we abandon coal? South Africa, that is generating about 58,000 megawatts, most of their energy sources are coming from coal. And then look at this same country. We have been flaring gas for more than 60 years. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? So we must try and get it right by putting square pegs in round holes. And so if we are talking about energy now, we are talking about both petrol and then electricity. Our president is the Minister of Petroleum Resources. Timipre Silva is the Minister of State. So what I'm saying is that if the Minister of State is given the powers to perform, as we have some other grade A ministers like the Minister, Attorney General of Federal, Attorney General and Minister of Justice. I'm calling grade A ministers now, ministers that can take decisions on their own and will just require president's endorsement. We have the Minister of Transportation. Amechi will sit down and say, look, this is what I want to do for my ministry, and there will be no hiccups. The same thing for the Minister of Niger Delta, Akpabio. But it looks like Timipre Silva is looked upon as a junior minister. And of course, we know the cabal surrounding that sector, that is the petroleum sector. So the Minister of Petroleum is not even in a position to take the kind of decisions that we take. Look at what is happening with the fuel crisis. Let me give you this analogy. You give somebody a goat, and then you tie a rope on the waist. And so you are dragging the rope back. How can Timipre Silva perform when the cabal is hounding him? So these are the things we are saying. Let's get this thing right. I think that within 1 year, Mr. President can still get this issue of energy right. It is not late. We cannot say this is like the fuel subsidy thing we want to leave for the incoming administration. President Muhammad Buhari, with the Nigerians that we were well knowledgeable in the oil sector, knowledgeable in the power sector, we have Nigerians that can be called upon to address this issue. What stops us from even putting together a task force? Get a task force. Look at the local content for here in Yenegua. They generate 10 megawatts. You won't believe that out of the 10 megawatts they generate, only one is utilized. They are looking for local and government agencies to come and utilize the remaining 9. So we have cases like that around the country. And then, much more than that, I think that if we are talking about restructuring in this country, one of the things that we must look at is the issue of power. Government at the top, at the federal level, cannot handle everything. Let them decentralize the power sector. So if, for instance, if only local government can generate 10 megawatts, and we now say that every state should generate at least a minimum of 10 megawatts, that is 36. We have 36 states, and that is 3.6. That is 3,600 megawatts. We should challenge the states. We should encourage the states. We should empower the states. Give them the necessary, legislative backing, so that we can once and for all address this issue of power. Because no country can develop, can make progress without power.
Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, said during the week that a committee has been set up. You are asking for a task force. We had task forces in the past in the electricity sector, but this time around, the minister is saying a committee will be set up, and there was a joint meeting of the various stakeholders within the electricity sector. Do you think that we can actually trust that committee that the minister has put together? Do you think that there will be any guarantee that the national grid will not collapse again, particularly now that even the discos are saying it's not their fault? The generating companies are saying, well, they've not been paid by the Nigerian bulk electricity trader.
You see, this issue of grid, something has collapsed, it has not collapsed. Are we the only country in the world? How can a minister of power be talking in the way and manner the current minister of power is? If you have failed, tell Nigerians that you have failed and that you should resign, and then let Mr. President appoint somebody who is more competent to do the job. When you put square pegs in round holes, these are the kind of things that we have. The committee I'm talking about is not on electricity, energy, a task force, where we will have the Minister of Petroleum Resources, we have the Minister of Power, we have even agencies like the local content, because the man who is in charge of that agency is coming from a sector from Shell. And so he has a background in that sector. So we are not saying we want that committee to be set up by Mr. President, not the one by the minister. If it is set up by the minister, it can't take us anywhere. Let Mr. President set up a ministerial task force on energy, a presidential task force, on energy, so that we know that, yes, and then give them a timeline. You don't give people responsibility without giving them timeline. Oh, it's like you give somebody an exam, and then you say anytime you finish, come and submit. So that is why we are getting this kind of result that we are. And people are not punished. People are not punished for failures. Look at the toxic fuel that was imported recently. Has anybody been fired? Will the NNPC say they are not to blame for this action as Mr. President or as the petroleum minister sanction anybody? No. Left for the petroleum minister, he would have known what to do, but his hands are tight. His boss is the Mr. President. His boss is also the senior minister of petroleum. So let's do things right if we want this country to move forward. And I am using this opportunity to challenge the administration that is taking over in 2023. That look, make power your number one priority. Once you get that right, everything will follow. You go around now, generators everywhere, every home, barbering salon generator, hotel generator. How can we make progress with generators? It's impossible.
One way of looking at this, some people are saying, yes, in January, off-specification fuel was brought in by the major dealers. And, NNPC claims that it's already addressing that. And then some people say, yes, energy prices are going up everywhere in the world. Gas is expensive. Petrol is expensive. In Nigeria, at the moment, diesel now is 750 naira per liter. Petrol is also likely to go up, even when it is available. And it has gone up in some parts of the country. So the argument is that, well, there is war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, and Russia is the gas station of the world. And that here in Nigeria, refineries are not even working. And that most of these problems are foreseeable. But you are saying this is about individuals rather than a global crisis.
See, Dr. ABATI, let me tell you something that will shock you. I was in the office of a top official of the Nigerian Customs Office recently, Nigerian Customs Service. And do you know that, like Tony Ilumelu pointed out in a tweet a couple of days ago, that at the point of loading, statutorily, we should have the Nigerian Customs Service, we should have the Nigerian Ports Authority, the NNPC, and other agencies, maybe the Navy too. But do you know that for more than 60 years, we have been ripped off by non-state actors? I will call it non-state actors in collaboration with state actors, that we do not know. There's no accurate record of what leaves Nigeria in terms of crude exports. And that has been happening for more than 60 years, since oil was first discovered in Oloibiri. This is a top government official telling me that is in a position to say when these papers are signed, a top custom officer, he said when these papers are signed, they just bring the papers for him to sign. I said, why do you sign? He said, if I oppose, I will lose my job. The same thing with the Nigerian Ports Authority. So when you have a system like that, all these things we are talking about will not move forward until we have a practical solution. Now take the issue of these illegal refineries that we are destroying and, in fact, adding to the environmental pollution in this country. Agencies like the Local Content Board, the Niger Delta Development Commission, the NNPC can engage these youths who have been doing these things illegally, give them the necessary tools, give them the necessary training, so that we will not, this issue of fuel scarcity every day will not die. If we have youths who did not go to any training and are able to refine, and then so why do we hunt them? Meanwhile, In the streets of all the 36 state capitals, you see people hawking naira. And nobody, it's not an illegal business. I mean, and why is it so? Because those hawking the naira and dollar, hawking dollar and the pound sterling and euro on the streets of Nigeria are from a certain part of the country. And those involved in illegal refineries are from another part of the country. So you cannot say you will move a nation forward with this kind of, double standard. One law is meant for some part of the country, another one is meant for another part of the country. Let's address these things holistically. If this president, who is the Minister of Petroleum Resources, knows that he has failed, don't forget, President Muhammad Buhari was Petroleum Minister over 30 years ago, and he's still Petroleum Minister. What value is he adding? What experience? Are we seeing 30 years experience? He told us that he's going to add more refineries during his electioneering in 2014, 2015. Have we seen that? Then how do you on earth subsidize what you are not even producing? Yes, we produce crude, fine, but you cannot subsidize petroleum products, diesel and PMS, because you import them. What does it take to fix our refineries? If you cannot fix them and you are paying so much to keep those idle staff on their jobs, then sell them to private Nigerians. If we had done that, at the inception of this administration, we won't be talking about all these things.
Bex, another thing is that the Minister of Power and also the NNPC, they are saying that Nigerians should show understanding, that these matters will be resolved in a matter of time, and that we should show understanding. But Nigerians are saying it's too hard, it's too difficult, to continue to buy diesel at 750 naira per liter, and not to have access to electricity, and not to have access to fuel. Manufacturers are threatening to shut down. Many of them have, in fact, done so. Bread manufacturers, people running small businesses cannot function. And yet we are asked to show understanding. Do you think that, Nigerians are a bit impatient, and that they just need to show more understanding and be patient?
That call is very, very unpatriotic. So what do you expect? The people who are asking us to understand, they have standby generators being run at the expense of the taxpayer. And so they don't give a damn. They don't need their money to fuel their cars. Of course, you see the fleet of cars they drive, their convoys, 10, 15, all taxpayers' money. So they are in a different world, and so they will not understand what we are going through. Now, at my residence in Lagos, Ikeja district tells me I'm running on an estimated bill, and you can imagine what we have been going through in the past couple of weeks in Nigeria. I pay 42,000 naira monthly, whether I get power for 1 week or not. As a matter of fact, I've just contacted a lawyer, so I'm taking them to court. 42,000 naira. How can you say you are asking me to pay 42,000 naira estimated bill monthly, but you did not give me an estimated power that you will supply me on a monthly basis? Are you seeing this is fraud at the highest level, 419 at the highest level? And so most Nigerians have been going through these pains for a very long time, and I think that very soon a revolt will come. Unfortunately, when the revolt will come, President Muhammad Buhari would have left office, because if the incoming administration continues with this pattern, I can assure you that it's not going to be easy. So the issue of beer, when we have gone to our graves, because this issue of power has also led to several untimely deaths. If you want to know, some hospitals cannot operate with candlesticks. They need electricity, and so the general power supply is not there, and so they will need diesel to run their generator. So when there's no money to run generator, how do you roll a patient to the theater? So people have died. Hundreds of thousands of Nigeria have died because of the inefficiency of those that were appointed to lead us. And so I don't know what he wants to understand. He wants us to understand. That statement is very, very unpatriotic and unacceptable.
Bex, before we bring in Engineer Dagogo Jack into the conversation, Nigerian Labour Congress is saying that part of the reason we are having issues with fuel is because our refineries are not working, and we're relying on imported fuel, imported diesel. Do you think that even if all the refineries are working at full capacity, that will solve the problem? And how soon can we get to that? Beyond saying when the Dangote refinery comes on stream, all our problems will be solved.
Yeah, if the refineries work at full stream, and then with the Dangote refinery, which is one of the biggest in the world, comes on stream, I'm sure this issue of fuel scarcity will be a thing of the past. It will be a thing of the past. And then let me make this appeal to the Minister of Power. Please consult widely. Consult widely. This is not about this one, it comes from my side, or it's from my region, or it's my religion. All Nigerians are asking for, if you are the power minister of power, give us power. That is why we are paying you. We are not paying you to give us darkness. We are paying you to give us light. And so if you cannot give us light, then you resign. Then we ask Mr. President to get somebody who can get the job done. I'm sure that Mr. President is highly embarrassed by what is happening in the power sector. I'm sure you also read his apology to Nigerians recently, which Nigerians, almost all Nigerians, wave away, say, what kind of apology is that? So, if the Minister of Power cannot give us power, what is he doing there as minister? Let him resign. Pure and simple.
Thank you very much, Asubex, but please just hold on. We'll take a short break now. When we take that break and then we'll come back, we'll bring in Engineer Bex Dagogo Jack, OFR, to also have his own input. And then we'll throw the conversation open to callers and persons who have joined us on other platforms. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. This is still City Talks with REUBEN ABATI here on City 1051 FM, your favorite lifestyle station. We'll be right back. Stay with us. I am, and I remain your host, REUBEN ABATI. We've been discussing the power grid collapse amidst diesel price hike in Nigeria and the scarcity of PMS and even aviation fuel and the effect of all of that on Nigerians. And remember, if you want to be part of this conversation, you can call us on 0700-1051-1051. Also on WhatsApp, 09099164403. And via social media on accounts at City1051. And also on Zoom, Instagram, and Facebook. Now, let's switch gear to our second guest, who is a civil engineer, Engineer Reynolds Bekimbo Dagogo Jack, OFR. Reynolds Bekimbo Dagogo Jack, OFR, is a civil engineer from Akukutoru local government area of River State, and is also popularly known as Bex. He's a technocrat and public servant. For over 30 years, Dagogo Jack has been active in both the public and private sector, especially in areas of government and public administration and project management, including engineering, construction, and manufacturing. More importantly, he was the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Power in 2012. And later, in 2014, he led the Interministerial Committee on Gas to Power Project of Nigeria. Thank you very much, Engineer Dagogo Jack, for joining us.
Thank you, REUBEN. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, the Minister of Power on Wednesday was saying that the collapse of the national grid was as a result of a number of challenges, including shortage of gas. Nigeria has been talking about a decade of gas in National Gas Plan and all of that. And up till 2014, you were in charge of the maintenance committee, the interministerial committee on gas to power. Before then, you led the presidential task force on power, and you've been very active in the electricity sector reform process. What went wrong? What has gone wrong? Where exactly is the problem?
Thank you, Reuben. I sympathize with both myself and Nigerians for what we are going through, and it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. We are running out of excuses for why we cannot get it right with electricity. It is very annoying that the telecom sector can make the transition from government ownership to market-driven private sector operation by Nigerians, not from outer space. And yet, government has pretty much refused to allow the same transition to take place in the electricity sector. Government continues to poke nose and put their hands here and there, not allowing the system to breathe. The system is supposed to move from one stage of market reform to the next, and then now can fly. When telecom started, it was not El Dorado. We still had all sorts of things happening with MTN, but with time, it is where it could compete with anybody in the world. Now, our government has not allowed or enabled the electricity sector to make the same progress that telecom has made, because they see in it opportunities for contract and all sorts of things that are negative to the development of a sector as critical as electricity, without which nothing else works. Even telecom relies on electricity. So I can't believe that government continues to interfere. Now the excuse being given that it is gas is extremely lame. It's a lame excuse. Gas is only a component. Efficient management of the grid is another component. Having second or third levels of response if you have an emergency grid challenge is another issue. So nobody should just come and tell you if there is no gas system, there will be system collapse. It's absolutely not correct. It's absolutely not correct.
Engineer Agogo Jack, but we have this 2.3 trillion deal with Siemens, the German company, and the expectation was that by now there will have been significant improvement. What's your take on the Siemens deal? Do you think there is any hope in that direction?
I don't know. For want of better description, it does still look like a paper tiger to me. It looks big on paper, but I don't see. As we speak, Reuben, you and I were in the system a few years back. We are on the same threshold of supply, effective supply, as we were back in 2015, 2014. So if there has been interventions must deliver results, and results must be measurable. People should be able to feel and touch that things have changed. So until things have changed visibly, people cannot begin to talk about change. Back in the day, in 2011, when we started the reform, it was at 1,200 megawatts and all sorts of crises in the system. By the time we left, we had generation capacity of 8 to 11,000 megawatts, which has not significantly changed in quantum. We were doing 5,000 with spinning reserve of 300 megawatts a day. All of that is today we're talking about excuses. So I think it's unfortunate that people didn't commit to serve this country in the area of electricity as they should, because that is one area they can unlock every other potential in the system, and nobody can run away from giving them credit if that had happened.
Okay, but Engineer Agogo Jack, if you look at the electricity sector value chain, where will you say the weakest link is? Is it in generation or transmission or in distribution? Because even the generating companies, the GENCOs, are protesting that they are not being paid by Nigerian bulk electricity trader, MBET. The discos are also just giving apologies to consumers of electricity, making it difficult to know who to hold specifically responsible. Or is this all a question of policy failure?
No, Reuben is a case of deteriorated cancerous condition. So at that point, which of your organs will you say is the weakest link? It becomes very difficult, so to say. And when we started, everybody knew that collecting the money will be the biggest challenge, and so the discos were most likely to be the weakest link. There were models for dealing with that. The second level of anxiety was the transmission grid. If it continued to be a government asset, with the bureaucracy, breathing down its neck and no accountability, no visibility, responsibility and all that. So between the disco and the transmission grid management, TCN, there was enough fear for even anybody to think that this will succeed. But the fear were all properly metric. They could be measured and they could be related to. So there were models for dealing with this situation. But somehow, recently, our president was reported to was saying he was sorry and all that stuff. But it's really difficult for us to get our economy right if the head of that country begins to normalize this Nigerian culture of just saying sorry. Nigeria will tell you sorry for doing you anything and they'll be angry. I've told you sorry. Why are you still angry? Sorry cannot be. People must be held accountable. For the power sector, the only thing required, two things required. Number one, government to own responsibility for how it has allowed it to deteriorate to this point and pick up the bills that have been generated that people cannot pay. There is a debt, trillions of debt in the market that has not been addressed. That will continue to weaken the system no matter how you try. Government must show up there and solve that problem because they caused it. They created the lacuna here and there. When it's time to change tariff, they are not there. When it's time to discipline transmission grid performance, they are not there by way of active regulation, robust regulation. So government has a responsibility to clean up this system, not to continue to mess it up and be looking for excuses and telling us sorry. It's not going to work.
Okay.
It's difficult for me to say the weakest point as I speak with you because, like I said, it's a progressively deteriorating cancerous condition, and all the organs are weak. Very weak.
Okay, I have a comment here from Dr. Fortune Fibirisima. He says something has to be done about the electricity supply in this country. I get less than 3 hours of electricity daily for almost a month. To make matters worse, diesel is now between 750 naira and 800 naira per liter if available. Getting fuel to run alternative fuel generator is almost impossible. Where are we heading? Okay, that's from Dr. Fortune Fiberisima. Better Engineer Dagogo Jack, I would like to ask you if you were to make specific suggestions to government, particularly about fuel, not being available, diesel being so expensive, aviation fuel is not available, even the airlines are threatening to shut down. Even media houses claim that, look, it's too expensive to keep going. What would be your specific suggestions in the electricity sector and with regard to power generally?
Energy and energy, yes, generally speaking.
Yes.
It's tempting to say you can fix it by, putting on this switch or putting off that switch. But it's more important to recognize that this is a system failure challenge. It's not just the national grid. It's an economic system failure challenge. A lot of hotel businesses, if you keep selling fuel at 800, will close up because they cannot double their room rate and expect people to keep coming to those rooms. Why will they? Well, hotels will close up. Basic food transportation will go beyond the roof, so people can't afford to eat. So there's an economic system collapse that is staring us in our face. We have to call a spade a spade. We also have to say that things are not right. I can say, Reuben, that I'm not that happy with those people who enjoyed Nigeria when Nigeria was good, and they're still alive. They went to school for free. Dollar was 1-to-1. They got a job, but once they graduated, they got a car and a house. They are still alive. Why are they not talking? Why are they not raising their voices so that others would know where to go? Anybody who speaks now is branded as either plus this or minus this or for this or against this. Can that be an environment for progress? So normally I would have been reluctant to join you because of that, the mediocrity that is, waving around the whole place. But I just thought it's fair for some people to air their conscience out. I think that we have a challenge, an economic system collapse challenge. It can be fixed from first principles. First principles being addressing what you are able to produce, addressing what you are able to consume. I don't see any kind of nexus between what we are producing and what we are consuming. I don't see an operative nexus. So it looks like the system is gone out of control of some sort. And that was not even the case a couple of years back. People could locate where the risks are in Nigeria. And if you like, price the risk, measure the risk and come into business. We are getting foreign direct investment that was going through the roof back in 2012, 13, 14. It was happening here. Our GDP, had shown South Africa in 2014. If things were all wrong, we wouldn't be scoring those metrics. But now, today, you don't know where to place where the weakest link is. I'm using your language. Leave power sector. Just look at the broad economic sector. Where would you say our weakest link is? Is it poor legislation? Is it law and order? Is it just import-export imbalance? Is it balance of trade deficit? Is it over carriage of debt service obligation? Where will you go and say this is where I'm going to start dealing with this from? But have you heard any of these people who want to rule us in 23? Have you heard them talk about this? Because me, I've not heard. Are they going to talk about this for just 2 weeks and then get elected and then we'll go back to square one? Why don't we talk about this so much more than who is going to be holding what from which zone and that zone and this land? Why are we putting the cat before the horse?
Well,
I'm just as frustrated as you are, if you ask me, to be honest.
Well, engineer,
not that we can't make solutions, but you have to build solutions from first principles.
Well, Engineer Dagogo, Jack, the aspects is also part of this conversation. We started earlier. But at this point, I would like to invite some of our listeners and others to make comments so that we can open up the conversation. And if you want to be part of this conversation, as I said earlier, the number to call is 0700-1051-1051. And we have two guests, Engineer Bex Dagogo Jack, former chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Power, former chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Gas to Power, and also Eda Asu Bex, a veteran journalist. Our lines are open. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. REUBEN ABATI. AB from Congo.
Okay, AB from Songo. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I think I want to say,
Good afternoon.
Our guests are spoken well. The two guests, they are spoken well. They have spoken my mind. But I want to say the basis of all is corruption, especially the electricity sector and even the petroleum sector. I remember when this man, Ibe Kachuku, was the GND, also group managing director. In fact, he was already turning the place around, turning the place around. Then suddenly they knew that they will not be Kabal, knew that they will not make more money again. They're now removing them, they're making to become minister of state. They now put the same, they are putting him with another thing. They put their own person, another person there so that they cannot begin to mix Nigerians. So the problem is just corruption. Corruption is in both electric sector and even the oil sector. Not only that, the marketers are the ones. We need to do away with the marketers. You can imagine a marketer telling us is bringing in about, let's assume it's bringing in about 30 metric tons. But in actual terms, It's only bringing about 80 metric tons. Where are the 10? They are sharing the money with the government and others. Tell them they should know this is what they are doing, especially those who are in that sector. God will help us in Jesus' name. Thank you.
Let me bring in Eda Subex. Do you agree with AB from Songo, who is saying that we should do away with the marketers? Where would we be without the marketers? Or he probably has in mind that we need to address the monopoly of NNPC.
Yes, we need to find a way around this, because when we talk about subsidy, it's a fraud. That is one of the biggest scams in Nigeria today. This thing called subsidy, because are those enjoying this subsidy? It is not you and I, but those highly placed officials who have connections in government that are enjoying the so-called subsidy. Why do I say enjoying? Because they come with all manner of unverifiable figures. Oh, this is what we have supplied. This is what we delivered. Nobody has come to verify, authenticate those figures. Even the union in the petroleum sector have come out openly several occasions to say we need to verify these figures. And then the other thing is the issue of the consumption. How many liters of fuel do we truly consume in Nigeria? And so there has to be a middle ground how we can resolve this issue. We are not saying that NNPC, there should be no marketers, but we're saying that there should be transparency in the entire system. Right now, everything is shrouded in secrecy. And that was why when people came with contaminated fuel, there was no punishment, because the NNPC is involved.
Okay, Engineer Dagogo Jack, are you still with us?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, do you share the view that the problem is corruption and that we need to do away with marketers?
No, I don't. I don't. I worry about the omnibus use of the word corruption as an all-round solution to our problem. Because every world, every country, every nation has levels of indiscipline and lack of due process that will terminate with the word corruption. But I prefer that people own up responsibilities and people do things properly. Look at our brother, Aliko Dangote, is building 600 and something thousand capacity refinery. I don't think it's taking him 8 years. We're almost doing 8 years with this administration. Now, we're not saying you should build 600,000, but we have 400,000 in Port Harcourt. We have 200 or something thousand in Kaduna. Why are they not working in 8 years? Why? Who says that it must be a government property? If it's not working, who says that somebody else can go in there and do it within 2-3 years and have it working? So we have the bloody diesel and aviation fuel and all that, whatever that cost may be. Because right now we're in a very bad situation. It's better to have something, but it is expensive, than not to have it, and when you have it, it's beyond the roof, and you don't know when it will come next. We have 3-4 refineries, Warri, Port Harcourt 2, Kaduna 1. Why are they sitting idle for 4 years after first term, second term? Why is there, these people I'm complaining about, why are they not talking about this? These are our senior citizens. Because I believe sometimes if they gather together and talk about just one subject, after a while there will be progress. People will be forced to do the right thing. It is in the second term that NMP or the Ministry of Power is awarding, Ministry of Petroleum awarding contract to turn around Port Harcourt or something like that. But people will tell you, if you start in the second term, or how long will it take to finish this for people to benefit and give you credit for the tenure that you are contracted to serve Nigerians? That's why I'm saying, were they ready to go from the get-go, hit the ground running? Or did it take 4 years to get to know where you should go, where you shouldn't go? Especially related to energy. I don't care if Nigeria is almost privatized. If you talk about education, a lot of people are in private universities, so about 50% will survive one way or the other. If you're talking about health, Nigeria is almost like helplessly privatized. You're talking about water, Nigerians are helplessly privatized, borehole everywhere. Now, but energy, it's difficult for individuals to go. Even all the generators we have don't amount to up to 10 megawatts effectively, 10 gigawatts effectively nationwide. So to that extent, government must say, this area, I will not allow government's hand to fall Nigerians' hands. Government to fall Nigerians' hands. And energy is number one. So if you spend 8 years and you left energy where it was before you came, how could that be an answer to our problem? And if you ask me, how come from the person who received the bad fuel to allowed it to get into our tanks, sent it to stations, and the person who imported it, the man who gave him the license to import it, nobody has been held accountable. How do you process an economy like that? How do you even set a standard for other people to follow? So these are the challenges.
Like we have another caller on the line. Please go ahead. Your name, your location.
Hello, Dr. Abati.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Yes.
My name is Tony Chu. I'm calling from Ayobo. And I want to salute the courage of your guests. Let me say this. This time, it's not just looking like we are being, tear gas is being flung to our faces. It's like toxic material we are receiving from the comments of people who are doing a social diagnosis of Nigeria. I think the fourth estate of the ring should save Nigeria. Get the people that are puffing and puffing and say they are aspirant to run this country again. Bring them to your platform and give them specific questions to answer to Nigerians. How we can come out of this trauma we are going through. As far as I'm concerned, the present government is a total failure. We cannot continue like this, otherwise our children will be causing us in our graves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, we'll take one more call before I go back to Engineer Dagogo Jack and Eda Asubex. Do we have a caller on the line? Yes. Please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good
afternoon.
And the double guest. My name is Somi. Somi Waranta, sir.
Oh, Somi, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine.
Yes.
Look, I've been listening to the whole talk about the failure of national grid and the failure of the entire system. And something kept bothering me. Why is it that we are talking about the fact that we have failed in the power sector? Nigeria has failed in every area imaginable. Look at, if we take the power sector for example, in my small business, I spent nearly around 60-something thousand for diesel for 1 day. Another match. What is happening? Who are those stopping us from moving forward in Nigeria? It's very, very unbelievable that we can be, matching talks about the ineptitude, incompetency of people who are taking it upon themselves to rule over us, to superintend over our affairs. It's very terrible. Let's call a spade a spade. There is so much failure everywhere, and we're not even accepting it that we have failed. President authority is unacceptable. We cannot take it. Give us a solution. That's what we want. But give us a new solution. If you cannot do that, resign. Let all of them resign. They're not doing anything then. Please, thank you.
Thank you very much, Somi Ranta, for that intervention. Let me just come back to you, Engineer Dagogo Jack, for your concluding thoughts on this subject. We have just a few more minutes to go on the program. Engineer Dagogo
Yeah, Ruben,
Jack.
did you ask a question?
I wanted your concluding thoughts because the last caller was talking about solutions.
Yeah, in conclusion, I think the last speakers seem to have hit the nail on the head. I think the Nigerian media group, the fourth estate, is the one that the rest of us are going to rely on to change the dynamics in this country. let there be enough control of what happens in the media. They shouldn't come and just dance when they are campaigning, and they must tell us what they want to do, how they will solve this, how they will solve that. If the media allows them to just dance through and go and rig elections and win, we are going to be back to square one. So media has a duty for us. That's why they called it the fourth estate of the realm. They are not people, they are not beggars. They are institutions that are part of the structure of a civil society. So I will pray that the media as a whole, you are doing a lot of work, and I'm an ardent follower of your effort to bring out truth and light. But a lot of other people must join you, so that we don't allow the people who are seeking office to dictate what kind of message we should be sharing until they go into office. We should dictate the message. We should tell them we are not happy with this. What will you do if you come? Past is past. We can't get back the 7 years that is gone. But we are not going to repeat the same story going forward. So tell us how you will do this, how you will do this. We are not here. We are not interested whether you are from southeast, southwest, northwest. The only thing, you should be a Nigerian. But tell us where you are going to take this place to. Stop talking about rotation, zoning formula. Don't talk about those things. Talk about how to fix this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Dagogo Jack. Well, let me come to you quickly, Eda Asubex. You had the two callers and also Engineer Dagogo Jack saying that the fourth estate of the realm has a major role to play as Nigeria moves towards 2023 general elections. And you are a veteran journalist. Do you think this is about the media or some other issues?
Well, as we move close to the 2023 elections, I think Nigeria
Eda Asubex?
Yeah.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Yes, I said we are looking forward to a president who will emerge in 2023 and address this issue of power once and for all. We are not talking about 85%. Somebody who will give us uninterrupted power supply. Once we do that, and then we can also go to either local or global economic summits and say, yes, Nigeria will now belong to the Committee of Nations that can really industrialize. Otherwise, let's forget about all this issue of ease of doing business and all that. How do you go to the ports? How do you ensure 24 hours cargo clearance when there's no electricity? You just can't. Those are my last thoughts.
Thank you very much, Dahasu Bex. Thank you very much also, Engineer Reynolds Bex, Dagogo Jacko FR, for taking time out to be part of City Talks with REUBEN ABATI today. We've been discussing the energy crisis in Nigeria. And I also like to thank those who called in and those who reach out to us on Zoom and Facebook. Remember, the conversation does not end here. You can reach out to me on my social media account at ABATI1990 on Instagram and at City1051 on all social media platforms. For those of you who tuned in late, no need to worry. You can visit YouTube page City1051 to watch the entire show shortly, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and leave comments. And don't forget also to tune in next week at 12 noon for another exciting edition of City Talks. My name is REUBEN ABATI. The show was produced by Adedoja Allen, Charles Flames, Abiodun Odunton, Ayodamola Uludara, and Oluwaseun Adetuntun. Have a great weekend. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward again to another episode of this program next week. Bye for now.
City Talks with REUBEN ABATI.